All right, my friends, we are here today to talk about how to make $10,000 offers feel cheap. Yes, so if you are a coach, consultant, service provider, and you sell expensive stuff, 4 figures, 5 figures, maybe even 6-figure offers, you've got to get really good at price conditioning. What price conditioning is, or price marinating as maybe you've heard it called, it's essentially a way to compare the price of which you are selling your service for to other things so that the prospect, when they hear your price, they're not shocked. They don't have sticker shock. They're not all of a sudden thinking, oh my gosh, this is so expensive. Instead, you want them to say, wow, that feels cheap, because they're comparing it to other things. There's 4 ways to do this, so let's go ahead and dive on in. So the first way to price condition is by comparing your price to the cost of inaction, okay? And just so you are aware, today we're going to primarily give examples on all of these, but I want to use examples that will be pertinent to people that are selling offers that are not financial related. It is really easy if you're selling a financial ROI, if you're selling marketing services, or maybe you're a salesperson, or like you're literally selling sales training. It's really easy to help people understand, like, hey, you're going to pay me this much because I'm going to help you make this much. But usually the people that have the hardest time with this sort of content or this sort of strategy are the people that are in like relationship-based offers, like life coaches, mindset coaches, or even health coaches. So that's what we'll try to use the examples for. But once again, first one is cost of inaction. Real quick, just to give an example for what I mean by this, the cost of inaction is, let's just say that you are in the health space and you help people lose weight. You help people get control over their health. You help them to make sure that their fitness is increasing and that their body fat is going down, et cetera, et cetera. The cost of inaction are all of the things that will happen to them if they don't take action, if they don't actually get their health under control. One of the easiest ways to really ramp this up pretty big time is, let's just say that someone is making $100,000 a year and their health is not going in the right direction. You want to expand it out, because once again, if you sell $10,000, maybe even $20,000, $30,000 health service, you've got to really make it seem like that's a great deal. And so if someone's making $100K a year, technically $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 services compared to $100K a year salary, that's a lot. That's 10, 20, 30% of their take-home salary. However, if, for example, they do not get their health under control, and maybe they're forced into retirement for, 5 years earlier than what they would otherwise want to go into retirement for. Maybe they have to retire at age 60 rather than 65 because maybe their body gives out on them. Well, all of a sudden, that's $500,000 in lost take-home income. $500,000 just because they did not get their health under control. That's obviously if they're forced into early retirement. That would be one example of cost of inaction, is literally that can cost them $500,000 in opportunity cost. Another example on this one would be talking about if they don't get their health in line, well, they might have some extra medical bills that they're going to have to deal with. And think about how much extra time off work they're going to have to spend going to the doctor, or maybe, they're getting sick a little too often, and maybe they lose their job because of all of the health issues going on. Once again, another huge financial toll on this person's life or on their personal income just because their health is not in check. So that would be one example of cost of inaction. Another example for a different space. Let's use relationship space, for example. If you help a married couple kind of rekindle their marriage and grow stronger and reconnect, and maybe they're kind of on a rocky foundation, well, once again, $10,000 might seem like a lot to that couple. However, what's the cost of inaction? Well, if their marriage continues to go down the wrong path and they lead to divorce, promise you right now, almost any single marriage in the entire United States is going to cost significantly more than $10,000. Not to mention the time off work they're going to have to spend, going to, whether it's meetings or courts or anything like that. There's a huge financial toll. And then let's think about that even further. After divorce is over, if there's kids in the picture, think about the child support checks that are going to have to be paid out. Divorce is pretty expensive. Very, very, very expensive, actually. And so if I were you, if you are selling a relationship style offer like that, cost of inaction, being divorced, I would talk about that as a huge cost. And ideally, there's a specific number. Maybe, I don't know the exact date. I don't know if it's $50,000, $100,000, $150,000 that it costs the average couple. And that's obviously if they don't make a ton of money. If they have a lot of money, if they have a lot of assets, it costs significantly more than that. So anyway, these are just a few examples of ways you can talk to your prospects. And just to be clear, this could be a one-on-one conversation if you're doing a one-on-one sales call, or if you're giving sales presentations to a crowd. If you're selling in a one-to-many environment, all of these methods still apply. So once again, those are just a few examples of talking about cost of inaction and how all of a sudden those costs are significantly bigger than your $10,000 offer. And so when they're thinking about those costs and all of a sudden they see it's only $10,000 to fix this problem, wow, it almost feels like a breath of fresh air. Okay, now let's go ahead and move on to the second form of price conditioning. So the second one that we're going to talk about is the cost of alternate or inferior solutions. So what I mean by that is, once again, I think it's always easiest to just give examples. But in this case, it's not necessarily not trying to fix their problem. It's just trying to fix their problem with other solutions that maybe leave them empty-handed, or maybe it still helps them get a result, but it's way more expensive. So, for example, in the health space, okay, there are some people that they want to lose weight. And, they might be able to hire you for $10,000 and you're going to be able to help them lose weight naturally. And sure, it might take, a year or whatnot. However, some people want to take the easy road out, and they might go get liposuction, or they might go get a tummy tuck, or some sort of a surgery of which they can remove the fat in an artificial way. And that may cost them significantly more money over the course of that surgery. And then, not to mention, ironically, if they have to go get surgery in this case, they're also probably going to be out of work for a little while. Once again, boom. Now that also adds in another financial element here. Another way of which some people might be burdened by trying to solve their fat loss solution would be, with the tummy tuck example, there's a lifestyle cost on that as well. So they might not be able to eat the foods they want. They might not be able to be able to really enjoy a Thanksgiving meal or a great Christmas dinner or something with their family long term, because they quite literally cannot have more than a few bites of food at a time, or they cannot have the normal size plate. And I'm not talking about like overloading the plate. I just mean like quite literally they're going to have like a very, 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 very small plate. And there's an element that is oftentimes going to be very undesired to that. So it's not about saying, hey, you can't overeat. It's like you can't eat the normal amount in general. And this is an irreversible surgery for a lot of people. So like that would be another example. Obviously, I'm not as familiar with tummy tucks because I'm not your guy when it comes to that sort of stuff. But anyway, that's another thing you could compare it to. Also, technically speaking, in the health space, you could probably use like peptides or GLP-1s as an example that you could compare your service to, because people oftentimes want to take the easy road out and take a GLP-1 or take a peptide to lose some weight. And hey, that would work, technically speaking. However, it's usually a lifelong alternate method. You're going to have to commit to doing that for life, which actually adds up quite a bit over time. And you might argue, well, Zach, you don't technically have to take it for life. You can get off of it. Sure. However, I have not met a single person that's ever taken GLP-1s or peptides to lose weight and then actually gotten off the peptides and didn't immediately gain the weight back. It's because that's not a real solution. It's only a solution as long as you're using it. It's very similar to actually using testosterone, TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. Great, and I fully understand, like, if you need it, you need it. So be it. However, the second you take testosterone, you're pretty much committing to taking testosterone for the rest of your life, because your body's going to stop producing it at the rate of which it would normally try to produce testosterone. So anyway, there's a lifelong, long-term impact, both financial cost, but also lifestyle cost to going down those alternate routes. However, hey, today you could just pay $10,000 or $15,000 and we could actually fix it the right way and you'll be good for life. And all of a sudden, once again, it's like, ooh, yeah, I'd rather just do it the right way and have this taken care of. And 6 months from now, I'll make some lifestyle changes and I'm good to go. And I don't have to rely on drugs or, alternate solutions for the rest of my life. So once again, just that's another another way to talk about price conditioning. Now, the other example that I would give, once again, going back to the relationship space, would be, what are the alternate solutions that people use to try to fix their marriage? You could talk about the cost of marriage counseling, or the cost of therapy, or the cost of, marriage retreats. Actually, marriage retreats, those in and of themselves can run pretty high prices, and oftentimes those are, they're very temporary. So people will oftentimes continue to go to marriage retreats. And hey, let me ask you, what would it cost if you went to that marriage retreat in Hawaii once a year over the next 5-10 years? That can suddenly be, 25, 50 grand over the next 5 years, give or take, just going to Hawaii for this annual marriage retreat to make sure you guys are, living living together in the way that you want to and continue to reconnect your marriage, as compared to, hey, you pay me $10,000 today, and we're going to make sure that if you ever go to Hawaii, it's not because you have to sit through classes and go through a retreat. You're just going to Hawaii because the heck of it, because you want to go on a fun vacation because you actually love your spouse, not because you're trying to fix your marriage. Okay, so once again, you could use these alternate solutions to compare to really how cheap your service actually would be. This is also, by the way, I know I said I wasn't going to get too into like the financial ROI sort of offers, but for example, if you're someone that helps people out with their marketing, or maybe you help people out with their sales, the amount that you could save them, for example, if you help them learn how to run Facebook ads in-house, the amount you could save them is easily $60,000 to $120,000 a year right off the rip for just teaching them how to run ads in-house, as compared to going and hiring an ads agency that's stateside. If you want a half-decent ads agency, they're usually going to cost you $5,000 to $10,000 a month, plus oftentimes some sort of an upside, whether it's percentage of revenue, percentage of ad spend, something along those lines. You're going to run a pretty hefty, line item there, as compared to, hey, you pay us $20,000 for this one-time consulting session over the next 3 months, and hey, you and your team will be fully equipped to be able to run ads just as good, if not better, than that other agency that's going to cost you $60,000 to $120,000. Once again, they're still getting the same outcome, but you're comparing your solution to a much more expensive solution. So once again, this is just another way to price condition people to make your $10,000 offer feel a little cheaper. All right, now let's go on to the third method. Now, the third method is a little abstract. Okay, so the third one is when you get to compare it to the cost of other things they have otherwise normalized in their life that they have already paid for. So I don't even know what to call this, but we're just going to say cost of other purchased items. Or maybe I just should have said cost of other purchases, okay? Now, what I mean by this is going to be pertinent to literally any offer. It doesn't matter because I said it's abstract. So this is not going to be a direct comparison. But what I mean by this is, for example, the average American that you're probably selling your $10,000 offer to probably has a home. Okay, they've probably taken out a mortgage to go buy a multi-$100,000, if not a multi-million-dollar property, of which they probably didn't have the cash for at the time that they purchased it. They probably saw this $400,000 home, or this $700,000 home, or maybe a $2 million home, and said, yep, that's the one for me. It's speaking to me. That's where I want to live. But they probably did not have that full amount of money in cash ready to put down. Maybe they only had 3.5%. Maybe they had 20% they were able to put down, and then they financed the rest, because that's what typically Americans resort to when they want to buy something that they can't actually afford in cash. They finance it. It's a normal thing for them to do with those sorts of purchases. So you can talk about whether, once again, one-on-one call or a sales presentation in a one-to-many environment, you could talk about how people buy $30,000 to $60,000 cars, or maybe $100,000 or $200,000 cars, or maybe they're buying their multi-$100,000 homes, or even better, they're committing at 18 years old to go 6 figures in debt to go to universities of which there's no promised payout. All you're going to get is a certification at the end of it with your name on it saying that you have a degree, and it's not even going to for sure get you a job. And if it does get you a job, most of those 4-year degrees are only going to get you a $50,000 to $75,000, maybe $100,000 a year salary for your starting salary right after university. But people are happy to go $50,000 to $100,000 in debt, in student loan debt, of which you can't even declare bankruptcy on, just for the hope that you're going to go get a job that's literally mediocre salary. Like it's just over the median household income of the U.S. There's not a lot of logic behind it if we really just look at like the numbers on paper. And we can talk about that on stage. We could talk about how people are happy to go spend 4 years and $50,000 to $100,000 of debt that's probably going to follow them around for the next 15 to 20 years to try to pay off for a very mediocre salary at best, when in reality, you charge, a whopping $10,000 to be able to get them a very real, tangible result in a matter of 90 days, 6 months? Wow. Now we're comparing that cost of education both from a time perspective as well as financial investment, comparing your financial investment being significantly smaller and your time investment being significantly smaller. Wow, does that sound much better, doesn't it? So anyway, that would be an example of price conditioning in an abstract way. You're just subtly mentioning how people do that, and oftentimes how your target avatar may have already gone through the school process. They understand how silly of I shouldn't say for everyone, but how oftentimes it doesn't always make sense on paper to go to a university and take out that much debt. Also, they've probably purchased a car and or live in a home, and they are used to those sorts of expenses. And so when you're helping them understand and almost normalizing taking loans out for things that are actually oftentimes not financial producing assets or a positive ROI, they're normal expenses to them. And now all of a sudden you help them with this other element that's significantly more valuable and actually appreciates over time maybe, and you charge just a fraction of what those other items were. All of a sudden, once again, your service seems like a no-brainer. Okay. Now the fourth one is, I'm going to say it's a bonus, okay? But I do recommend it for just about everyone. So we'll say 4, but I'm also going to put like a big, star around it because it's not applicable for everyone. So the fourth one is cost of your other offers. So this is where it gets to be pretty important to have other offers that you have for sale. You don't have to actually sell them. You don't have to actually have a bunch of people buying these. The point in having a super high premium priced offer is to not always get clients for that specific offer. It's to give people the option to buy it if they so choose. But oftentimes it's a pricing strategy to make them say, wow, that's pretty expensive. However, I might not be in the market for that, but all of a sudden this other thing feels so much cheaper because that is so much more expensive. So for example, I have done this in the past where when we sell consulting services, oftentimes we charge, at minimum 15 to 20 grand, as high as maybe 40, 50 grand. However, we have done for you packages. We have done for you marketing services we've been offering for over a decade. And at max, we've had clients pay us almost $500,000 a year per client. Multiple clients have paid us $400,000 to $500,000 a year, $300,000 a year. It's very, very normal in the agency because they will pay a base fee that's already 6 figures a year. Plus, they'll pay an upside for rev shares. So that way we can be financially incentivized to create as much profit for their organization as possible. So when I'm talking about our services and the value of which we add to businesses, and I talk about, hey, just to be clear, before I teach this next thing, just going to let you know right now, this is something that we literally are implementing for our other clients that are paying us $400,000, $500,000 a year right now. So please take this seriously. Just a quick mention of that as I'm doing a training. All of a sudden, it sets the context. They're like, wow, I might not be able to afford this guy's service. Or, wow, this guy charges really premium prices. And so now all of a sudden, they're expecting, if I give them an offer, that it's going to be multiple 6 figures in that case. But all of a sudden, if they hear about my consulting offer that's, small, I would say it's on the smaller side of 5 figures a year, that's significantly more digestible. And all of a sudden they're like, well, it's a good price, but like that feels so much better, so much more digestible than that $400,000 a year bill I was looking at beforehand. Okay. But it also is great because when I talk about the clients do pay us 400, 500 grand a year, if they're in the market and they actually want to become a client of that sort of a service, great, awesome. Now I can make another 400, 500 grand a year because we're onboarding the right client because they said, oh yeah, awesome. I'm totally, that price does not concern me at all. And all of a sudden I'm able to make significantly more money on a deal because I told them just in passing about an offer that I have that's maybe not necessarily the one I was hoping or expecting that they might have otherwise bought. So that would be another example. So a couple ways you have to do this. You have to be very, very careful. Do not just say the clients are paying you, call it however much per year, if they're not. Okay, so if you have like, let's say a $100,000 offer that's for sale, but you don't have a client that's yet paying you, or you've never had a client pay you $100,000, do not go say in your marketing or say in a training, oh yeah, by the way, we've got clients that pay us $100,000 a year for this service, when that's not actually true. There's no way to back that up. That is a lie. It's probably, I would venture to say I'd probably put a lot of money on this one, that it goes against FTC compliance, because you are now lying in your marketing and your advertising. That's not okay. Not suggesting that. Just don't encourage you lying. Like, that's obviously not the point here. Be a person of integrity, of course. So maybe you have a $100,000 offer that is for sale, but maybe you haven't had a person purchase it before. You can say that, okay? You can say, hey, just to be clear, whenever people work with us, we've got multiple different ways of which we can service them. We've got packages as low as a couple $100 a month. We also have packages that cost as high as $100,000 a year. Saying something like that, when you position it like that, entirely accurate, because you're not saying people pay us that. You're just saying we have a package. Like, if you want to buy that, we'll happily take your money. We'll happily, render services for that amount of money, as long as you actually do have something for sale that you'd be happy to render that service for. So that would be another way of which you can use, I would say, the cost of other offers that are more premium in prices. And you could just subtly mention it in passing. And so that way, all of a sudden, when people realize that you are charging a much higher price for this similar service, and once again, kind of goes down to, hey, I don't have to pay that, but they also have this other service that's $10K instead of $100K. Man, once again, $10K sounds so much more digestible, and I feel like I'm getting a great deal. It's similar to, actually, you've probably been to the movie theater before, and the movie theater is famous for the old 3-tier pricing strategy, where they'll have like the small popcorn, the medium popcorn, and the large popcorn. And they will price them in a way that you are naturally going to bias towards either the medium, or sometimes they oftentimes will actually do it in a way that you're actually biased towards going to the jumbo bucket of popcorn. But you go in, you're like, honestly, I just want a small popcorn, and you see the small popcorn, $6, but for an extra 75 cents for $6.75, you can get a medium. It's like, well, I'm going to get the medium in that case. Why not pay an extra 75 cents marginal compared to the initial cost of the small, and I get so much more? And then all of a sudden you see, hey, the large is just $7.50 or whatever. It might be significantly more than that. It's been a while since I've been to the movies, but the point is, you can have multiple different offers positioned next to each other, so that way people can kind of be biased towards going straight to the middle or maybe the most expensive. But if you do it incorrectly, people will all just go straight towards the the smallest package. So just be very careful on how you use this. But the point is, I want you to start strategically inserting price conditioning or price marinating strategies, or whatever the heck you want to call it, into your marketing, into your sales presentations, so you can get more sales and get past that inevitable sticker shock that maybe you've been dealing with. Now, fully transparent, if you'd like more help with this, if you'd like more help with like, how do I actually put this into a presentation? I'm going to be speaking on stage here in another month, or I want to do this virtual event here soon, or I have a webinar coming on up. If you're that type of person and you want to actually get real strategy into how to put this into your presentations so your presentations convert at scale, one to many, hit us up. Go to paidevents.com. That's all we do, is we help people craft virtual presentations that they can sell a bunch of tickets for, that attract their ideal target audience. And then they all get there to this virtual presentation. You're in front of a Zoom room for, 1, 2 days in a row, 3 days in a row, and you're there usually for about an hour each day. And we help you with your actual presentation. We help you understand what should you talk about on day 1 to condition people and get them in the right mindset, versus day 2, versus day 3. And how do you roll into the pitch in a way that's just super natural and doesn't really feel salesy, but it's actually coming from a place of service, because no one wants to be that grimy sales, kind of like sales sleazeball type of person that you think of with a used car dealership. We're not talking about that at all. This is just coming from a place of service, but these are very carefully crafted presentations that can convert your ideal target clients at scale into your higher premium price offers. So if you'd like help with that, go to paidevents.com. Go book a call with either myself or someone from my team, and we'd be happy to talk about what could this look like in your business to be able to continue to multiply your business, continue to exponentially grow your premium priced offers. So once again, if that's you, I can't wait to see you on the call. That's about all we have for you today. So once again, main action item, go use at least one of these. Go put one of these into your next sales call. Go use one of these in your next presentation. Go start using some of these in your organic posts, in your YouTube videos, wherever you're putting out your content online. mind and watch and wait and see the fruits that this will have on your sales. By the way, if you're new here and you got some value out of today's video, I would highly encourage you, hit subscribe. Feel free, even turn the old post notifications on. We have 2 new episodes we release every single week. Every Tuesday, our videos just like this, where we're going to get hands-on, tactical, nitty-gritty, and we're going to talk about some strategic moves that you could place into your business, into your marketing, into your sales strategies, into your offer creation to make you go make more money, to help you go multiply your business. Obviously, we're not making any income claims around here. These are just lessons that we're trying to hand down to you, but if implemented properly, they should be pretty fruitful for your business. And every Friday, we usually talk about Faith Forward Fridays. These are videos that are usually focused on some biblical elements, some scripture, and we talk about how they can actually impact the way of which you're leading and growing in the marketplace. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, you got some value out of today's video, hit the old subscribe button. Can't wait to see you in the next video. But once again, that's about all we have for all of you today. So much fun. Had a good time. Once again, go grow your business. Can't wait to see you in the next one. Peace.